Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live here on the United Public Radio Network 105.3 from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We are fully sponsored tonight and every night by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee. So thank you, Folgers. Just would not be the same without you. Also, truly honored for Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, aka Justin Snicker, for our intro and our outro. He is an award-winning composer of Halloween horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found anywhere that good music can be found. You'll notice tonight, no Bubbles. She is down for the count, bad flu, COVID, something, unfortunately. So if she's up for it, she will be in chat. So let's send her some good vibes, well wishes, and lots of love and hugs. It's not the same without her either. Anyway, what's new on the front? Well, you've noticed that I personally have been posting a lot today on a new venture that I am involved in, and got Bubbles on board too, and she's stoked. Probably be more stoked if she was feeling better. But we are basically on a new venture with Team Templar North America, and I wanted to bring that to everybody's attention because it's a really exciting venture for us. I know, there's been a lot going on behind the scenes, probably for the last 8 to 10 months. And I was asked to fully come on board, and I agreed, she agreed, and here we are. It's really going to be exciting. It's going to get away from a lot of the mainstream studies that have been done. And if you're asking what it's about, essentially, it is a site on the Mohican Reservation in Wisconsin, and it is proving so far to be history changing. This isn't about, because a lot of people have been asking me, and I don't want any of my Indigenous friends to feel like this is something that is where the Native American people were suppressed. It is nothing like that. This is a show of union. This is a show, a site, history of two people from two different walks of life, two groups of people from different walks of life coming together on one piece of property, in one area. It's fantastic. And working with colleagues who you've all seen on the show. Wayne Murphy has been on the show before to talk about the Wisconsin site, as has Sean Williamson, as has Hamilton White. There's a lot of really great things happening with really amazing people, and so much more that I wish, it's a show in itself, and the guys will be coming on to join us, in the future as more information becomes available. And once we know what we can actually talk about, there's a lot of people wanting to come to the site. It's just not available for people to see. This is going to be an archaeological site. It needs to be studied. And then at some point, perhaps the elders will decide to open it up to people. But until then, I'm sorry, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm sort of the one in charge of the whole media aspect of everything. And here I am on media, and I'm just making an announcement that was asked of me. So it's a really exciting venture. Those who know me know that if I do attach my name to something, there's something really amazing to it. And I think it's really going to be an important history changing event. So join the pages, guys. It's going to be so much fun. You're going to have so many great people coming on board. But now back to the present. Tonight, we do welcome back a really amazing guy. He's one of, he's just become such a good friend and just, an amazing guest to have on. I know he's somebody I hold near and dear. And Dolly, thank you for being in chat. Hold you near and dear. Hold y'all near and dear. So I've got Wayne and Tamara and Dolly. Everybody's just chiming in. I love it. Thank you, Tamara, for joining. I really appreciate that. So tonight he's going to be discussing his new book, which you guys have been seeing me post this up. This is Symmetry, and it is a true story, a true ET adventure. And it is Dolly's story. Dolly has also been on the show to talk about this, and she's under the weather tonight too. So she's going to be in chat. So I'm going to be posting up her comments and such as we go along. So if you guys have questions for her, please put it in there. Hey, Wayne Murphy. I love it. Thanks from the Mohican Nation. Mwah. Near and dear also. So this is really going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a great show. You can find us on all the usual spots. YouTube would be UFO, Gods, and Extraterrestrials. Yes, I do have the Outer Realm. Michelle Droshi at the Outer Realm YouTube, which is more of an archive site. But yeah, if you dig having everything in one spot, go, subscribe, give it a little like. UFO Paranormal on YouTube. We have News on the Flip Side, Facebook, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, United Public Radio Network, Facebook, Outer Realm, of course, Canada's Most Haunted, of course, Joe Montaldo, UFO Undercover. So you see, there is a lot of different places that you can find us. So I am just going to fire this off to Preston, and done. There we go. So going to be a lot of fun. Preston is one of these people who is not all gloom and doom and scary. Here, Dolly, this one's for you. Sending poor Dolly to some prayers over there. Get better. And here we'll get this. Thank you for the Mohican Nation. Again, love it. And Dolly is here in chat. Thank you. Here's some lovin's for Bubbles as well. But again, Preston is one of these researchers who writes a lot of books that's really fantastic stories. There's so much stigma attached to extraterrestrial contact that can be pretty frightening. And I won't say that there aren't some that are, but I think a lot of times it's more on our part because we're sort of like on edge and we go in there guns a-blazing. Let me tell you what, they're going to defend themselves. Hey, Zach Man. Got ripping up the carpet. Oh, that sounds fun. We've had our share of doing that over here. And here we go. Preston, how are you?
I'm doing good. Doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. Just getting through some of the comments. TTNA stands with the Native people. Thank you. We'll bring amazing information to light. 3 team members have Native American blood. Yeah, they do. Thank you. All right. Now we can get down to business. Sorry, it's another venture. So how are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah.
Are you?
Well, they're crazy times, so I think we're all a little bit frazzled, but yeah.
Yeah. That's definitely been some times, that's for sure. That could be a whole other show on the times. But you've been a busy guy, I understand, since the release of this guy, which I've been like flashing off for the last few weeks. Oh, this is coming. Yes, it is. So
yes, a long time coming. I worked on this one for longer than most.
Wow. Really? So do you want to talk to us about the journey of this book? Dolly's in chat, by the way. So as she has comments or you guys can communicate, I'll put her comments up, and anybody has questions for her, we'll put them up. There we go. And I had a heart for Preston. There we are. A big welcome from Wayne. There we go. So, like I hold you and Dolly, like I said, very near and dear. I've been waiting for this also. I've been very fortunate to get teeny little snippets here and there. That's a bonus of being friends, people. Okay. It's not like favoritism or anything, but, but I know that this was, a work in motion. It took a lot of time. What brought you to write this book?
I blame the ETs. They actually set it up. Not kidding. For
Right.
real. Yeah, as Dolly says, we met in 2016,
Yes.
and she had been searching for someone to tell her story.
Yes.
It's a fully conscious contactee, not like most people I've interviewed who, have some amnesia, missing time, a lot of
Right.
fear surrounding the subject.
Right.
Dolly rarely has missing time. I should say has happened, but
Right.
pretty much since age 14, she's been fully conscious in her encounters. She's now in her mid 60s. Hope you don't mind I said that, Dolly.
It's okay.
Please
She's
forgive
far
me.
away. You're safe for now.
But so she's lived a whole lifetime with this, keeping
Right.
it secret, and
Wow.
which has been very, very difficult. And that's true for a lot of contactees. They don't tell people.
She doesn't mind. Okay.
So
Yes.
she wanted to come forward for a number of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
One was that she knows she's not the only one out there who's having these experiences, and by that I mean fully conscious, being taken on board regularly, being taught by the ETs, living among them, going to other planets, the full-on contact, more extensive than anyone I've ever interviewed, really, or read about.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that was one reason. She knows she's not alone. She kind of wants to flush some of these guys out.
Right.
Another was the information she has learned is pretty amazing and crucial, I think, to a lot of people. The ETs have a message that they want to impart, and she wants to get that out. She also, she's not a reader of UFO books by any means.
Right.
She's been purposefully kept away from this subject, not only by herself, but by the ETs to a certain extent as well. They're like, no, don't read that book. You don't need to. You're living this.
No.
But you can't help but be exposed to this subject
Right.
in today's day and age.
Yeah.
Today's day and age.
Yes.
And she started to see how badly misrepresented UFO contact is in the media.
I agree. I do agree.
Yeah.
You actually are the one who brought that to light for myself. I mean, for the most part, like, my experiences weren't bad. I realized for me it was my mindset, but because of what you see in media and so on. And then when we had you on the first time, you have all these really nice, enlightening stories. I'm like, wait a minute. Really? This is a thing? And you've been on a few times, and all the stories you talk about, for the most part, are really enlightening. So I do agree with you that media is a culprit in giving out bad information, and for whatever reason,
They are. They absolutely are. And, I bought into it myself. When I got involved in this field, I was not happy.
Yeah.
I thought, well, people are being kidnapped. It's against their will. These ETs
Yeah.
have no feelings. They're experimenting on people.
Mm-hmm.
People have PTSD, nightmares.
Yeah.
Their health is suffering mentally, physically. I'm like, what is going on here? This is not good.
No.
And
But does it happen? Or is it just like on occasion? Or is it like looking at a scale?
Well, I really had to start taking a deeper look at things.
Right.
And asking people, why is this so bad for you? What happened? What is so terrible? And they're like, well, I was physically examined. I'm like, okay.
Right.
That can be scary. I understand.
Yes.
And, I didn't feel like I asked for this. A lot of people do suffer nightmares and trauma from this, PTSD, for real. Insomnia. Right. They can't sleep without, some lights on or white noise. Right. They have to have double locks on their doors. So
right. That's
there's a lot of fear. Yeah. I'm not going to walk back the fear. It's real.
Yeah.
But when I ask people what actually happened to you, they describe, being physically examined. I'm like, okay, did they hurt you? Well, no. That some dude experienced some pain.
I cried, maybe.
Yeah.
Wow.
And definitely trauma. But I started to, right off the bat, I started getting healing cases.
Right.
I thought, wow, that's kind of interesting. Why isn't anyone talking about that? Is it just me? And of course it wasn't, Bud Hopkins had him. I actually cornered him because he never wrote about it.
Right.
I asked him face to face, do you get healing cases? He's like, oh yeah, all the time. So does David Jacobs, who doesn't like the ETs, but has a bunch of healing cases.
Wow.
John Mack, Barbara Lamb, they all do.
Do they write about them, or are you literally the only one who's decided to come forward and be the odd man out, making ET the good guy?
Well, I was the first to put together a book on it, but certainly not the first to notice these cases.
Right.
Because, like I said, all major researchers have them. It's just fear sells, and the media doesn't really want a friendly ET story.
Yeah.
So I'm like, huh. And I started looking at, okay, what else happened to you? And people describe, well, the ETs talk to me. I'm like, okay, what did they say? Because often it's just, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Have no fear. Why are you screaming?
Right. I don't know. Maybe it's that big. Okay, just might hurt for a little bit. We'll leave that there.
Well, people have said, you're hurting me.
Check
You're hurting
your temperature.
Me. And the ETs they'll put their hand on your head and they will stop the pain.
Right.
But they will talk to people. And if it's anything beyond, don't be afraid, we won't hurt you. Because people are screaming, and then this is when they black out. This is when their memory is suppressed. This is when they have missing time.
Right.
But if they're not screaming and freaking out, the ETs talk to them and will give them advice, ask them what they want to learn, take them to the engine room and show them how the craft works. Take them to the observation deck. Say, do you want to see the view?
Right.
Would you like to see the moon? How would you like to see Saturn?
I want to know if the Earth is freaking flat. I have the flat Earth guy, David Weiss, coming on. I want to know.
I don't. Well,
I know, right?
You let me know.
He's going to quiz me. I need to know. No, seriously. No.
So I started to come around. I'm like, I wonder if this is, a lot of fear-based thinking going on here.
Right. Right.
Because the more I dug into it, the more I realized, well, geez, people are being sat down in the engine room and taught how to fly the craft. Which was a major part of Dolly's experiences. And a lot of people I've talked to have had that. They started getting warnings.
The more you understand them, the more they will teach you.
So, yeah, what happens is when people react with complete fear, their telepathy is cut off. Their communication lines are cut off. Their ability to perceive what's happening to them clearly is cut off. So, I mean, I don't want to get too into it, but yeah, there's a lot of fear surrounding this, which is not really warranted. If ETs were here to hurt us, we would know it.
Right.
There would be zero doubt. We would be,
Right. We know by now. Let's put it that way, right? So you meet Dolly, and she's all full of this. Oh no, this is all fantabulous.
She's like, I'm having a good time. I'm like, really?
Right.
She reached out to me because she's looking for other research, a researcher,
right,
to tell her story in a non-fear-based manner. And by the time, by 2016, when we first met, I had pretty much built sort of what I hope, at least, is a clear picture of what's going on with the ET agenda. They're here to, I'd come to the conclusion by this point that they are here to heal. That's a major agenda. They are here to study our genetics and perhaps upgrade them and use our own genetics to create hybrid babies for themselves and for us, for that matter,
Right.
But here to teach us, here to guide us, here to help us to the extent that they can without interfering with our own free will and all of this. So this was the conclusion I'd come to. I'm like, okay, they're obviously not here to take over.
Right.
Any, child can see that. That's the first conclusion you come to, pretty much. Like, well, if they wanted to take over, they would have.
Well, she tells me right here, Talara told her your name. So she sought you out, like it or not. You're the guy.
Can you believe that? So apparently the ETs do know me, have read my books, which is like, what? Like, that is
hopefully
insane.
They like this one.
I know, right? Which may sound, I know it sounds, I mean, when I heard that, I'm like, wow. but it wasn't the first time I've heard this. A guy in England, same thing. He called me up one day. He says, "Oh my gosh, I'm having these experiences.
Right.
The ETs are telling me we're facing some disasters. Have you ever heard of this? They're
Wow.
warning me about nuclear proliferation." And I said, "Yes, of course. That's one of their main messages." And he said, "Really?" And
They
we
must be
talked.
frantic right now.
I think so.
Right.
So he's going on, and then finally he says, "I should tell you that I was visited by the Greys, and they told me to contact a gentleman by the name of Preston Dennett. I did not know your name." That's what he told me.
Wow.
So this is
Wow.
yeah. So
Again, no pressure. It's just like, what? Okay.
so this is something people should know. The ETs are watching over UFO researchers. They
Right.
know if you are not representing this accurately.
Right.
They are watching over everybody and everything. So
Right.
they led Dolly to me, which is just so.
How did you
Wow.
feel about that initially? Like, oh, what am I supposed to do? It's just like, like, how did you feel about that? That now they're just sending all these people to you because you're not busy enough.
Yeah, well, like you say, no pressure, no pressure.
I know.
Okay.
I
On,
know.
on one level, it's like really cool
Yeah, it would
because
be.
I've seen UFOs
Yes.
on a number of occasions, but
Mhm.
and each time I have to think, wow, maybe I'm a contactee. They know about me. Do they know about me?
They
How
do.
much do they know? Well, yes, they know, and that's
They know.
a really cool feeling because
Oh,
like I said, I've come to the conclusion that they're not here to hurt or scare people.
right.
And I'm not going to say everyone's encounter is puppies and rainbows and lollipops and fun, because a lot of people have a really hard time with this, and people do have negative encounters. They
Well,
do.
this brings me to Tamara's question. I'm going to try to. Sorry, guys. I know you're backing up. I'm just trying to keep up with where we're at in the whole stream here. Oh, here it is. So, do different aliens respond to people differently? Or maybe we can reword that. Do ET just on average, we have this mindset, this fear, do they react based on our reaction?
Yes, aliens do react to people differently,
Mhm.
and it's based on a number of factors. I
Mhm.
mean, there are different types of ETs, for one thing.
Right.
So that is a factor. But by and large, I think they're aware of each other and cooperative. But if you have a belief system that's,
Mhm.
say, very religious, they're
Right.
going to treat you a little differently. They will kind of work with you and your belief system and your level of fear. So if you have a very strong fear reaction, they're going to be like, well, this person doesn't like this. They're having a
Tie him
really
down.
hard time.
He's gonna go renegade. Yeah.
What we need to do with this person
Right.
is calm them down.
Right.
What we need to do with this person is provide a screen memory. They're not ready to remember. So they will work with you and
Mhm.
allow you to not remember.
Right. So in
And
other words, if you say something like, touch me and I'll snap your little neck, might not be a good thing to say when they're
yeah,
trying to abduct you.
exactly. And
That'd be me.
they will leave
My
people
first
alone.
encounter.
They will, if you are just out of your mind, no, I am not doing with this. Go away,
Right.
go away, go away.
Right.
That does drive them away in certain
Right.
cases.
Yeah,
Sometimes
you
they will
have to
come
pretty
back
much be
later.
ready to receive them, right? I relaxed after Dolly and I had spoken. Talara knows you as well. That's why I asked to speak with you first. Great. I don't know if this is good or bad, but thank you. But and she says here also, your autonomy is very important to them.
Yes. And, long before I got in this field, people were talking about, well, on some level, people agree to be contacted. And this is what we do see with people who sort of face their contacts,
Right.
become fully conscious and realize, oh, yes, I did agree to this. Because initially people don't think they did, and they feel like they're being taken against their will. Dolly
Right.
says, no, that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
This is, her experience. But the
Mm-hmm.
more I research this, the more I have come around to, I think that that's probably true in most cases.
Right. Bradley says, so do they, I know the answer. You or Dolly can chime in. Do they speak English? How do they know our language? How do they know what we call a rock is actually a rock to them?
Yeah, they do speak English, but they speak Spanish too.
Right.
They will speak Dutch. They will speak German. They will speak whatever language.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly, when they first arrive, they say, "Don't have no fear." They will
Right.
say it in French if you're French.
Right.
There's a
Right.
guy, Ed Walters, from the Gulf Breeze guy from Florida.
Right.
They had a nickname for him. They called him Zijas,
No.
which turns out to be eyebrows in Spanish.
Oh, great.
And he's got these really big, thick eyebrows.
Wow. So this is his nickname, Very Nice.
Yes. So
Okay.
yes, they do speak all languages of Earth. This is
Right.
another thing. One guy actually asked the ETs flat out. They were praying mantis. They said, "Yes, we speak every language on your planet. It's very easy for us."
And how was
But
that experience, can I ask, with the mantis? Because there are people on the fence with them.
yeah, well, his encounter was absolutely friendly.
Perfect.
They were 15 feet tall, and he was scared out of his mind.
Right.
He
Thinking
was.
to himself, I remember when I was like 7 and I crushed that little praying mantis in the yard. Somebody's
Um,
about to take revenge. That'd be
he
the
was.
first thing going through my mind.
Yeah, he was very frightened. He said it. He nearly
Right.
crapped his pants, is what he said.
Oh, you think it'd be like
Especially when he
higher than my
turned around and
ceiling.
saw them. Yeah, 15
Oh my
feet tall.
gosh.
And
Dolly
yeah,
says
I
they're
think their
watchers.
appearance.
Okay.
Yep, yeah, their appearance can very much scare people, and that's what they told, Kevin Kamen, the Navy medic I interviewed, because he just didn't want to turn around and look at them. He says, "What do you look like?" And they said, "Well, our appearance sometimes frightens people."
Do you think? Cheapers, not like we can hide you anywhere either. Not
And
that
there's a
big.
reason for that, because that's another thing. We're saturated in fear in this society. Fear is a guiding force in people's lives, a
Right.
guiding force. It's really unfortunate.
It
We
is.
fear people who look different. Can be walking down the street, someone who looks a little different.
Do you think
Yeah.
that's just media? That's just the world we live in. They just seem to want to keep everybody at odds and
Yes.
fearful.
And you know how you can almost prove that?
Mhm.
Is look at little kids.
Mhm.
They do not see difference. They do not
No,
see
they do
skin
not.
color.
No,
They will run up to anybody.
that's true.
And it doesn't matter what they look like. And this is
That's
why
true.
little kids often don't have fear.
Learned behavior.
Yep, it's true. But yeah, the ETs speak all languages, but really speak telepathically in a way that supersedes language. So
So
they
where
will.
would they learn language then? Is this just natural, like a natural ability for them? Not necessarily just speaking. I mean, they can hear your thoughts. They would have to understand the language, right? Because that's
Yeah.
what Bradley's asking. How do they learn it?
Well, they said it's easy. Language
Yeah.
is actually, in its essence, telepathic. And we as a human race it's probably telepathic at one point. You've probably heard the story of the Tower of Babel and how languages
Yes.
evolved and all of this.
Yes.
And this is certainly what Dolly was taught, that we were a telepathic race, and language is
Advanced
very
races.
similar
Yeah.
across our planet.
It's like we've just been suppressed over time. We know when that happened around 300 and something AD. So with the onset, of course, of the church control. Thurston says it's Preston Dennett. Woohoo. Fan base is chiming in. Yep. Okay, she goes, they are telepathic. They speak to us so we can understand them until we use our own psychic abilities. And we are all born psychics. Okay, just want to get Dolly's comments in. And we continue. So realistically then, do you think, because there's also a theory that they are us in the future. I remember communicating with something at one point, and I said, well, who are you? And they said, you are us. We are you. I was like, and then he said, we're one. I'm like, I'll accept that answer. I don't know what I'll do with it, but I'll accept it. Do you think that
Wow.
maybe is
They told that to Dolly. They told that to
There
most
we
of the
go.
contactees who have any level of awareness.
Yeah.
Will get that message at some point. We are you, you are us, we are one. I
Wow.
hear it all the time. So to hear you say in those exact words is yes. No, I don't think they are us from the future.
Okay.
Because there are a lot of cases out there, and I'm sure if you search hard enough, and I did, you can march out a few cases that will support that premise. But by and large, no. What we're looking at is humanity, humanoids. The human form is present throughout the universe.
Yes.
So there are people out there who look just like us. The Greys are not that far removed from us. They have the same essential genetic structure. A lot of people have been told flat out that when they ask, who are you? The Grey says, well, we once looked like you. We actually look very much like you, which would speak to how they can interbreed with us.
Right.
So I don't think they're us from the future, though, we could possibly evolve into looking more like Greys. Greys can evolve, looking more like us. They're moving towards that. We see that with the hybrid phenomena. So there's a interweaving there.
Right.
So we are all essentially sharing the same genetic structure.
Right.
This is one of the reasons, when we're putting together the book, I'm like, Dolly, I think I have a good title. I want to call it Dolly Among the Stars. That's what I want to call it.
I always want to break out the song.
And she's like, oh, I really want to call it Symmetry. I'm like, ooh, that's an interesting title. Why do you want to call it Symmetry? And she says, because this was a big part of her lessons among the ETs, as they would take her, on board the motherships and teach her science, take her to other planets and say, look, there's pine trees here too. Look, there's humans living in this village. Look, there's, bulls and pigs and rabbits and birds. They says there's symmetry throughout the universe.
Right.
Life has an incredible symmetry no matter where you go. This is a major part of her lesson. And not only life, but, energy, the micro universe and the macro universe. The atomic structure all the way to, solar systems and galaxies.
Right.
All have an incredible symmetry to each other. So it turned out to be a really descriptive way to put in one word what Dolly has learned, a message from the ET.
Which is the template of the universe is pure symmetry, is what she says.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So I love the title.
Wayne wants to go, Dolly. Come pick him up. Swing around.
I'm ready to.
Wayne.
I'm ready to.
There we go. Okay, we're all hitching a ride, Dolly. Saddle her up. Let's go. Right.
That could happen. Just so you know, it's a little bit jokey.
No, we've had conversations. I don't doubt any of it.
I am telling you here and now that yes, people are going and living among the ETs. I've had first-hand cases. One lady I interviewed, Pat Cates from Louisiana, was taken to the town of Armero, Colombia in 1985, right before a huge volcanic eruption. And they scooped up thousands of people right before this town got buried in these flows of mud from the Nevado del Ruiz volcano. 23,000 people lost their lives in that tragedy. But I'm going to bring that number down to considerably less because those people were scooped up and taken. This does happen.
Wow. And they stay with ET after that.
Yep.
I just have to get to this before we continue because Bradley has asked twice and I don't want him to feel like I'm ignoring him. Stanton Friedman was a big UFO researcher here in the Maritimes, Eastern Canada. I got the chance to go through some of his research. I'm truly on the fence on UFOs and aliens. Bradley just delving, hoping to learn something. Do you know of him? Stanton Friedman was big here in Canada for sure.
Oh, yeah. He is a true pioneer in this field. We really owe the whole Roswell case to Stanton Friedman, who was the first to track down Jesse Marcel
Mm-hmm.
and interview him and find other witnesses.
Right.
Stanton Friedman was a nuclear physicist, a scientist, one
Mm-hmm.
of few of his era that took UFOs seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So we have, Dr. James McDonald. We have Dr. Paul
Yeah.
Hynek.
Yes.
We
Yes.
have, Dr. Leo Sprinkle,
Mm-hmm.
Jacques Vallée, the
LA.
astronomer.
I know.
Very few real, honest to God scientists were saying, hey, this is real. And Stanton
Right.
Friedman was one of them. As a nuclear physicist, he said, hey, the UFOs are real, and
Mm-hmm.
he's probably most famous for the Roswell crash,
Wow.
putting that forth. But
Yeah.
absolutely was someone who said that, let's put the science first, science in UFOs.
Right.
And
There you go.
yeah,
There you go,
made it-
Bradley. There. This is Tamara, going back to what you were talking about. Whole villages have gone missing and never come back throughout history. Northern Canada is also notorious for some of those. And I would think so. So Preston would stand by his research. Yeah, I think he would stand by Stanton's research for sure.
Yeah, I respect him as a researcher. And
Yeah.
the previous comment is true too. There was a whole village in Alaska,
Yeah.
completely disappeared.
Another one in northern Canada, like really far north as well. Like there's all kinds. So what do you have to do to qualify? Because Dolly says there are many being rescued right now. Okay, again. So what do you have to do to qualify for this?
Well, it's very simple. Be a good person. That's really what it comes down to, is have morals and ethics and try to improve yourself, spiritually. Reach out to the ETs.
And what's the best way to do that, in your opinion? Also being asked in the chat room.
Meditate. This is the one thing that pretty much all spiritual disciplines, all religions agree upon and have within their practice, is some form of meditation or prayer. And this is absolutely universal. And this is how you evolve psychically, how you grow, your psychic abilities, grow spiritually, is through a simple process of meditation, which is really nothing more than relaxation. Relaxing physically,
just clearing the
relaxing
mind
mentally,
Yeah.
and do the right thing. Allow love and truth to guide your actions. If you read it all about near-death experiences, this is what the angels will tell people always. The only thing you're going to bring with you is knowledge and love.
I agree with you. And I think if you just ask, I've often asked, I found that when I asked and said, okay, I'm ready, all of a sudden, because I was getting snippets before, and then I started having recollection of childhood memories. And then next thing you know, I'm full on visits. And even just like a week ago, I'm sitting there driving down and I'm along a certain way that I take. And I said, okay, where are you? All of a sudden I look up and I see this flash of light go through the sky, go just like that. I went, thank you. And every now and then, it's just like, okay, I drive down this way a lot, just so you know. So for me, I took that as all right. Thank you.
It seems like every 5 years or so I'll have a sighting. I think the last was like a couple of years ago in November 2020.
Right.
And I went outside. I'm like, okay, where are you guys? It's been a while. Show me. And I saw a little flash of light. I'm like, really? That's all? That's all you got for me?
Right.
I'm like, I'm a little disappointed. You can do better than that. And then right then, this giant owl flew right low over my head. I'm like, whoa. And if you know about this field, owls are.
Sorry, I doubted you. Yeah.
I still didn't see the craft and didn't get a ride, but it was cool.
No, it is really cool. I've had a lot of, like she just says, they travel in the light. Can I tell you how many light type of experiences I've had? I've had things shoot through the entire house and shake the house. A light decimating the neighbor's house. No kidding. Okay. And he knocked everything out over there. And, then we've had things, just big bright lights hit one mirror, come out of a window, hit the mirror, bounce out. I'm like, I think we've just been hit by something. it happens all the time, and it's always light related. So thank you for that, Dolly. I like it. So
Yeah. Reach out mentally, like you said, just to ask.
right, right.
And that absolutely works. Like we did a lot of, CE5s back in
CE5s, I
the
was just
day,
gonna say, yeah.
and I remember one lady, she had hers on her first try. She just reached
Mm.
out, asked, and boom,
And how was her experience for the first time? Like
very
she
positive.
obviously.
Yeah.
So did you see a craft? Because there's
Yep.
a lot of stuff with this, right? This is
Yep.
like a Dr. Stephen Greer, I think, has takes people out and to have experiences. And some people, after seeing interviews, are like, "Oh my gosh!" Like that was like something I never expected. It's not just so much a craft, but sometimes it's full on ET experience.
Yep. I think it depends on the person. I remember
Right?
Stephen Greer came here in
Yeah.
LA in 1992,
Right.
and August, we went out the first night, a huge group of us, and right up to Santa Susana Pass here outside of LA.
Right.
And someone screams out, "What's that? Look up!" First night, and there must have been 50 of us. I remember looking up, thinking, "Wow, look at that!"
That's a
uh,
thing, I think.
it
Yeah.
wasn't. I can tell you, it wasn't a satellite. It was almost the size of the half moon. It
Wow.
was huge.
Wow.
Uh,
What sticks out for me is watching the documentary where this older gentleman who was really hard of hearing made a comment and he said, "Oh, make sure I hear you because these old ears don't hear so well." And someone captured a photo of him at one of these events, and there was an ET. You could see a gray standing behind him, and they had their hands on his ears, and he could hear better from that point on. It was just like we talk about healing and healing stories. And he was in tears when he was telling his story. He goes, I could hear. And for
right.
someone to have captured the photo while they were sitting in a group. So all these people are sitting in a group. And here's this guy. Nobody sees this beside him, but somebody in the front took a picture because they thought they saw something. And here you see this gray behind him with hands on the ears. And he
Yeah.
could see, which I thought was like mind blowing.
Yes. Well, before you ask,
Yeah,
that's
Bill.
Dolly.
Yeah, Dolly.
Did
ET
you-
can and
oh,
does remote view. They can OBE you. Dang it.
yeah. Yeah.
with,
But
with
one thing I wanted to say, that speaking to the guy who was deaf,
yeah.
I wrote this book, Schoolyard UFO Encounters, where they show themselves to kids, and I found 100 cases where they're just kind of announcing their presence to little kids.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this one case that just really touched me, which occurred in North Carolina at the
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina School for the Deaf, where they came swooping down over the school. And of course, these kids are all profoundly deaf. They can't hear. So
Right.
what this UFO did was put forth this sort of vibrational sound, this woo, 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 woo sound that they could actually feel.
Wow.
And so everyone comes running out and
Right.
they can quote hear this UFO as it comes right solo over the school, that the supervisors thought it would actually hit the school itself.
Wow.
And showed themselves to these deaf kids. It's just the
Wow.
coolest thing.
That is a cool thing. Like that's like, does that happen often when there's mass sightings?
With schoolyards, yeah.
Really?
And yeah, it does happen fairly regularly, because the schoolyard encounters started in 1950 and continued all the way to the present day.
Mm-hmm.
1 or 2 cases at least per year. And I think you could easily times that by 10, because most people don't talk.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
right after that, I started looking for other cases, like, why are, because they're showing themselves to 40, 50, 100 kids. Is
Yeah.
there anything like this?
Mm-hmm.
Are they being seen at concerts? Yes, they are. Not to the level, but there are some sporting events. But what shocked me was drive-in movie theaters.
Yeah, you have a book on that we talked about when you were
Yeah,
talking about it, I'm like, just sort of like, why there?
I'm telling
Why
you, because
there?
they've got a nice captive audience. They're very perceptive. Open. They're in a
Yeah.
kind of watching the movie.
Yeah, good
and
mood, night out, that
yeah,
sort of, maybe Pure intention. Dolly says children do not fear. They know much and they learn. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. Tamara, I think the aliens are confirming to the point that governments can't say it isn't happening. So that way too many people's experiences. Well, yeah, I mean, if you're showing yourself to 50 people at a time, but is everybody in that group seeing them? Because there are theories that not everybody can see something. Just because a UFO appears, let's say we're like 50 people, maybe only 10 people out of the 50 will see it. And you have 40 that go, we don't see anything. Some people believe only abductees or contactees can have the experience, while others who aren't really open to it aren't really seeing it. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I do have cases like that.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to say in the schoolyard cases, no, we don't see that. Everyone's seeing it.
Everybody, well, pure, right?
And pretty much with the drive-in theater cases as well, though there are some people who don't look up, so they're not seeing it. But yeah, I have cases. There was a case involving 4 or 5 teenagers, and one kid's like, look, and his friends could not see it. Could not see it.
So why do you think that is? Like, why, 4 people don't see it, but one person does? Is it the ability, perhaps, or is there just something more to it? Look at that, everybody. I'm going to see Dolly at the drive-in. She goes, I've been at the drive-ins to display that to people. Big reality checks to the humans, no doubt. So just wave at Dolly when you have an experience. It might be her in there.
Can you imagine being inside the UFO when people are doing their CE5 work?
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, yeah. She's put on displays for people to photograph. I don't think people realize how extensive Dolly's experiences are.
Right. Right.
When I say a fully conscious contactee, she is up there eating,
let's get back
sleeping, talking to them.
Right.
All of this stuff. I mean,
so why does she come back here? Having like health issues because she's sick right now, having a bout of pneumonia. Why come back here for all the gloom and doom when really you can be taken from it if people are being taken?
Yeah, well, she seriously considered just let's go.
Right.
But she also loves humanity, loves
she does.
Earth, loves all the animals,
Mm-hmm.
Really wants to help people. This is something I see with contactees. They are the nicest people.
Right.
I started looking at their jobs. I'm like, why are there so many nurses?
I agree.
Why are there so many doctors? Why are there so many social workers and environmentalists and artists and musicians? They're awesome people and they want to help.
Right.
And that is why Dolly decided she says, you know what? I'm going to stick it out.
Right.
And she, like a lot of contactees, knows that death is a lie. You don't die.
No.
You may shed the physical body.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a vehicle.
Right.
It's like driving a UFO, and then you get to change UFOs. Boom, you get to
That's
another.
right. Yeah, exactly.
So it's no big deal. And yeah, there are these messages from the ETs. And this is absolutely true in Dolly's case, that we're facing some rough times up ahead due to our own making.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the messages. There's not a lot of that out there. Messages that or people, you hear about it now and then, but she seems to have quite a bit. So
yeah, I hear it all the time from contactees.
Wow.
Really. And almost all of them will have the same type of dream. One is some sort of apocalyptic type event. Another is UFOs are filling the sky and everyone's like, go on board.
Right.
Which speaks to, the
rescue.
messages. Yep. The message that Dolly has been given, which is that we are facing an environmental crisis. We are facing a possible, what does she call it? A CME, coronal mass ejection.
Mm-hmm. And what is this exactly?
This is sort of a micronova, not a supernova, but when the sun burps and sheds its outer layer. And the science, when she first told me this, I started, of course, researching this, and the science does support this.
Wow.
It's not super easy to find, but if you go out there and look, yes, the science does support this. You may have heard of the Carrington event of 1850 something, 60, which this did happen. There was a huge CME, a coronal mass ejection, which knocked out the newly emerging telegraph system. According to
Wow.
Dolly, this is what we're facing. And I've heard this sort of thing from a lot of contactees, though in different variations of perhaps a polar tilt, massive tidal waves due to the pollution and the nuclear proliferation. This is what Kevin Kamen, the
That's so sad.
Navy medic, was told. They said, since you started exploding nuclear bombs, you started a countdown clock, and it's going to cause all these disasters to happen. And they showed him hurricane after hurricane after hurricane, and landslides, and earthquakes, and all this stuff. And this is what they told a lady in Maine. They said, you think Katrina was bad, Hurricane Katrina? That's nothing. You are facing some very heavy-duty disasters. This is, so I don't want to be all doom and gloomy, because it's not. This is a way to move us off a pathway of self-destruction, because that's what we've done. We've really screwed things up. It's our own fault for polluting our planet. It's our own fault for not being kind to each other. It's our own fault for not electing people to our governments that have our own best interests in mind.
Aside from their own, obviously, right? So I guess right now, I mean, many extraterrestrials are believed to even live in our oceans, within the planet, in the mountains, like some, subterranean, like some actually reside here on the planet. So why don't they intervene if this is home for them as well?
Well, they do intervene.
Okay.
And so we see this is what the whole contact experience is.
Right.
And one couple, I asked them that, or they asked ETs.
Right.
Because they were taken on board. It was all, they said, we weren't abducted, we were invited on board. They were very much human looking, though bald with large dark eyes, and they were healed. And they said, well, why are you helping us? And this is, well, we are helping out people who are helping others. And they said, why don't you just come down and fix everything?
Right.
They said, we cannot do that. It's up to you to solve your own problems. Fixing your problems would not help you. So they respect the fact that we have chosen
Our
to,
path.
yeah.
Wow.
So this is really comes down to autonomy and free will. They're not going to become our alien overlords. I'd welcome them, honestly.
At this point, yeah, man, pickings are slim over here. But I mean, here's something. I mean, we're at the mercy of a lot of people.
No.
I agree with Melissa. We wouldn't learn if they fix everything, but we're at the mercy right now of I'm not going to say it because somebody's listening. We have a lot of people in Russia who listen to the show, actually, but we're at the mercy right now of people playing a really good game of Risk. Let's put it that way.
I mean, we are and we aren't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we are at the mercy, but only if we choose to.
I don't know if the people in that country right now are thinking that way, because they're just being devastated. So what do? You can't get out of that. Is that their karma? Like tens of thousands of people?
Well, it's
it's
a tough situation. I mean, the fact is, we've got various forces vying for control over our planet. We have the 1%ers. We have the secret government. We have the real governments. We have the people at large, which I think is the most powerful force. Humanity is the most powerful force on this planet. If we were all to say, that's it, I am not going to shoot anyone. Every soldier laid down their arms. What are our leaders going to do?
The crazy man's got the button to the nuke. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but does he? He's just one guy. It's
with his hand
a lot of people
on the button.
Yeah,
right?
But what I'm saying is there's people surrounding every leader.
Right.
And we have to start waking up and doing the right thing. That we do have power. We have incredible power, and we need to wake up to it.
Right.
That's, we can elect a good government. The United States is a relatively young government and really shook things up.
Mm-hmm.
with creating a democracy that was of the people, for the people, by the people,
Mm-hmm.
and did a really good job.
Yeah.
Comparatively speaking, America was different from world governments reaching back hundreds of years.
Yes.
And it's kind of fallen back into the whole,
It's no
you
Abe
know,
Lincoln, will tell you that much, right? Yeah. Don't feed the negative monster. I agree with that. I believe negativity feeds negativity and makes it stronger. I preach that in my own work.
so
If
we
it's a
just need to,
positive,
we need to stop listening to the lies.
yeah.
Don't buy into the fear.
Mm-hmm.
People are trying to, get disclosure from the government. I'm like,
Good
they're not
luck.
going to disclose. We don't need them to
Mm.
disclose. We've already done it.
Right. See, that's a good point. While people are sitting here waiting for the government to disclose, I've said many times on the show, you have more interesting things coming up from everyday people with things like this, a phone, being able to go in and you're photographing things, you're having your own personal experiences. We have people such as yourself who are documenting these experiences, putting it out there. We don't need a government to disclose and say, yes, this is a thing, when most people already know it's a thing.
Yeah, I think disclosure will happen at some point.
Mm.
Progress, is inevitable,
Right.
and the truth is almost indestructible. I mean, you can hide the truth, you can distort it, but you can't destroy it.
Mm-hmm.
Truth is truth,
Right.
and sooner or later, I mean, you cannot destroy it.
No, it's
So
true.
disclosure will happen.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that the cover-up is a complete disaster, and the government is not. People don't trust them anymore, and that's why I think they're disclosing. They're like, well, we have to because we want to control the narrative. Good luck with your alien threat narrative, because I don't think people are going to buy it.
No.
I really don't.
Well, I think we've been conditioned to fear it for so long that you have the people out there who are genuinely terrified of this and could very easily say, no, I'm not ready for something like that. Dolly says you do not need someone else to tell you what to think. Think for yourself. 100%. 100%. But I think that media has done its job.
Yeah. Well, this is why my advice to contactees is, first thing you should do is take a deep breath, calm down, and let's take a look at what has actually happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's write it down.
Mm-hmm.
What is the scariest, worst thing? What is the best thing?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about contact?
Right.
Is this something you would absolutely not want in your life?
Mm-hmm.
Has you had any benefits from it at all? I talked to a guy in England. He's like, I don't really like it. I feel violated. He still feels this way. And I'm like, okay, well, has there been anything good about it? And he's like, well, yeah. And he describes, several really, sort of interesting and fun incidents,
right.
and how he's incredibly psychic. He has OBEs, out of body experiences, all the time. And I asked him, like, well, do you think this is related to your encounters? He says, well, yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the sort of thing we need to start taking a look at is, have they healed you? Have they taught you anything?
Yeah. Dolly says, yes, listen to Preston. There we go. Listen to Preston. Yeah, it sounds like there's more pros than cons. So I think it comes down to that whole mindset thing again, that people just can't let go of their conditioning.
Yeah, and it's tough. I get it. I've talked to people who are like, you know what, I'm sorry, I just feel violated, and I totally respect that.
Mm-hmm.
Because if that's the way you feel, that's the way you feel. If that's your experience, I have to respect that. And I've talked to people who are very profoundly religious, and this one guy is like, I'm sorry, I just think they're demonic. And I'm like, well,
that's the thing too, right?
And I'm like, why do you feel this way? And he's like, well, I trust in Jesus. And I'm like, okay.
Do people think they're one of the same then? Like aliens are demons, or aliens are angels? Are they one of the same? Are they quite different? Because I think that
Well,
was somewhere in the feed here also.
yeah. I mean, I looked into it. Believe me,
Yeah.
I checked out all the books on demonology and Ed and
Mhm.
Lorraine Warren and
Yeah.
going all the way back to, the Middle Ages when
Yeah.
and even farther back to Roman times when the
Mm.
word demon was first talked about,
Mhm.
which was a completely different meaning, by the way.
Right.
It was more the muse, or communication from the other realm.
Right.
So, yeah, I think angels are probably real. And by that, I mean spirits, entities who have not been human, who work with what we would think of as the divine realms or the higher energies.
Mhm.
And well, one lady contactee was told flat out, this lady from Maine, who you thought were angels, that was us. And we do see remarkable parallels. So I think there
Right.
is something to this.
Mhm.
And people say, well, they're demonic. I'm like, well, humans are also demonic, aren't they?
Yes.
In their behavior.
Agree. Yes.
So if you
Yeah.
want to
Worse,
call
I think.
ETs, if you want to call ETs demonic, I am not going to try to dissuade you from that, but I will say I don't agree with it
Mhm.
because I have looked up the demonic phenomena and it's real and it follows a very set pattern. It's a haunting that starts with knocking noises and footsteps and bad odors and cold spots.
Mhm.
It moves from infestation to, possession, and it's
Mhm.
a nasty thing.
It is,
And
yeah.
I've looked into angelic phenomena and people being rescued and all this stuff. And fine, if you want to say that there are entities out there who are following a demonic path, that's fine, as long as you accept the possibility that there are more ETs who are angelic,
Mhm.
because that is what the Bible says.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a portion that are fallen, quote, fallen angels, but most of them are not fallen. They're
Well, the
mostly
Bible even
not.
speaks of abductions and UFO encounters. Look at Enoch. Look at Ezekiel. It's all in the
Right.
Bible, people. It's just saying. So, you know,
So, yeah, we have a tendency to look at this phenomena through the lens of our cultural beliefs.
yes, I
So if
agree
you
with
go
you.
back in
Yeah.
history, you can
Yeah.
see this. And people
Yeah.
have tried to say, well, fairies were ETs. Maybe in some cases, but I don't know. Because we
Right.
have a lot of different paranormal, supernatural, if you will,
Right.
entities out there.
Right.
And yes, I think there probably are jinns or
Right.
trickster spirits.
Right.
Uh,
But
but
even a
I think
human spirit can be a trickster.
exactly, absolutely.
Right. Right.
So we just have to step back a little bit and not try to label everything under one umbrella.
So we're
Because
coming back to that, what we visually see, because something may look scary. Like, for example, a reptilian or like a draconian. Are they to be feared or are they fairly benign? Because through history, there is documentation where they're fairly benign, but there's also documentation where they're real a-holes. So,
yeah, they're people. People are people wherever you go.
yeah.
Isn't that a song?
Yeah, yeah. Let's break out. We're gonna do this, yeah.
but
But
yeah, I mean
for sure.
that we have a tendency to think of us and them, which is
Right.
what one of the messages ETs gives. Like, no, it's not us and them. It's not you.
It's one.
We are one. So yes, there are probably people out there who don't have your best interests in mind. And when it
Right.
comes, I don't get a whole lot of the reptilian reports. I do have some.
Right.
Dolly had a reptilian encounter, and it was not pleasant. She
There you
met
go.
one in the Everglades, and she's like thinking, "Well, this thing wants to eat me for lunch," and she took off running. And I have other reptilian encounters where people have encountered them in the wilderness, and there's no UFO. So this
So they're
could be.
subterranean. They're here.
This is a theory, which I think is somewhat supported by the evidence, certainly. And yeah, they're not necessarily always friendly, though. I have to tell you, Barbara Lamb, a
Mhm.
very respected researcher, said she had a very friendly encounter with a reptilian.
So what,
And they're
how come she
people.
got a good one and Dolly got something and trying to eat her?
Yeah, good question.
So I talked to Barbara Lamb and say, "What'd you do to make us so nice?" You know?
And my answer is, people are different. And I think what we're seeing with the ET phenomena is that
Mhm.
people who are coming from other planets are by and large technologically very advanced.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're technologically advanced, they have reached the point where they could have destroyed themselves, right?
Right.
But didn't. And why? Because they are also spiritually advanced, morally, ethically advanced.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why, by and large, we don't need to fear ETs, because they are advanced.
Mm-hmm.
Think about this logically. It doesn't make any sense that ETs would go from various star systems. And how many are there out there? 1 billion.
So they don't have they don't have the will to want to take control, because even Stephen Hawking's like, oh, don't be doing that. You have really brilliant minds saying, remember what happened to the Inca and the Mayan when the Spanish came, like conquerors. And they're saying, Stephen Hawking's like, no, do not put a signal out there. We do not want to make contact because we are less technologically advanced and we could be taken over very easily. So
Yeah, but Stephen Hawking doesn't believe that we're being visited.
also true. Right under his feet. Yeah.
How brilliant are you if you're not even willing to look at the evidence?
Right.
This is what's so frustrating to me with these,
right.
Skeptics. I have to tell you, there is a long list of astronomers who have seen UFOs.
Yes.
And believe this is real and know we're being visited.
Mm-hmm.
It really behooves anyone who is a skeptic
mm-hmm.
or a scientist to please just look at the evidence. Leave your preconceptions behind. It's ridiculous. For Neil deGrasse Tyson, there's a man who needs to be taken on board. Because if I hear him
line him up,
time, I think he actually probably believes. I don't know. I'm not going to name names, but we know that there are disinformants. We know this. We know there are absolute debunker liars, paid disinformants.
Right. Absolutely.
Absolutely. That is a weird, real danger in this field, which I'm like, what other field of science has someone attacking the researcher? That is just unbelievable to me.
Yeah, that to me is, again, is that just a control thing? Is just wanting to, because let's face it, if the people are fearful, they're easier to control. And she says he does know the truth. Yeah, I believe you.
I suspect he does. But, I don't know. I do know that there are some, Phil Klass, come on. Go back to Stanton Friedman.
Yeah.
Who did his research on Donald Menzel, the first paid informant, who was part of MJ-12.
Right.
That secret group, and knew UFOs were real and said that they weren't. He knew. Donald Menzel, shame on you.
Yeah.
What Preston down at you now.
That's right. Yeah. What Preston said. I'm down with that too. Man.
It's just.
It's things like that back us up as a society. Right.
Yes.
It's like one step forward, 2 steps back. And it's people like that who just keep pushing us further back. Like, do you feel we should be almost living in a Star Trek sort of age by now with technology? Like, because so many people have been in contact with ET who willingly share their technology. Government's done, Lord only knows, enough of the reverse engineering. Should we not be a little further ahead than what we are right now?
Yeah, and I think where we went wrong was Roswell, which almost was publicly revealed. It was. They put out a press release, and they took it back. And if that hadn't happened, we would now be traveling to other planets. We would probably have overcome wars, hunger, disease to a large extent. We do have the technology. It is within our possession. The military has healing technology.
I was going to say, like, what are your thoughts on Solar Warden and all, this galactic fleet that a lot of the allies led by the United States apparently have?
I think there's probably some truth to it. I have to say this is not my area of expertise. I really have focused on contactees.
Yeah, it's just a curiosity, like.
Yeah, I'm following it. If you look at what Gary McKinnon, the computer hacker, found out, it's clear that we do have these craft. I have talked to people within the military or subcontractors who have told me firsthand yes, we have these craft, we have the technology, we're reverse engineering it.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as I know, we're not really, we're still being quarantined. This is sort of the buzz that's going on. We are not really flying to other planets. We're not allowed to.
We're naughty. We're
We're,
apparently not allowed
yeah,
to do this.
we're too dangerous. I can't
Right.
really speak to that with any authority,
No,
but I have
but
to
it's a
tell you,
good, it's theory.
some of the stuff that I'm hearing now, I'm like, I don't believe that for a second.
Right.
I am sorry. That is just too wild.
Right.
Slaves on Mars and
Oh, there's
no,
lots of, there's all
no,
kinds
I
of
don't.
stuff. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't believe that, and I'm going to
Yeah.
put all of this stuff on the back burner until there's real reporting on
More.
it, real corroboration.
Right.
Some
Right.
actual.
Mm-hmm.
It's distressing to me because people will
Mm-hmm.
believe anything.
Well, if there is, I don't really think it's ET imprisoning anybody. If anything, I would think it's more along the lines of humans who have technology who won't share it, who are just getting away with things that they get away with doing here, just somewhere else,
Yeah. Well, we know this.
personal opinion.
We know
Yeah.
technology has been suppressed. The
Yeah,
electric car,
absolutely.
the oil industry suppressed the electric car for decades.
Yeah.
This is not speculation. We know this.
Hello,
So,
Preston.
it's
Margaret said,
Peggy.
"Good morning." Yeah.
Hi, Peggy.
Dolly, yeah, lots of misinformation. Yeah, there is a lot of misinformation. I'd like to get back to the messages, though. Some of the positive messages. We'll try to get ourselves back on a positive track because that's pretty much what you're known for. I love having you on because everything's like just positive when it comes to ET. And I think that's just, we need just more of that, and more people might actually put down their guard and say, you know what? I'm good. I'm willing to try this. I'm willing to just be open-minded about it.
Yeah. I think, well, the message from the ETs is really focused on waking up
Right.
psychically. This is a real big thing for them. And this
Right.
is what they'll tell you. This is our gift to you.
Right.
For what you have given to us. I've heard that same phrase from several contactees who have worked with the ETs to provide babies.
Right.
And they absolutely are working so hard to wake people up, to teach them
Right.
how to do astral travel. That's huge. And I thought that's so cool because when I started researching in 1986, I started having out-of-body experiences. And it became a huge part of my life.
Now, how do you feel about that? What was your first time like? That'd be something that people would be just sort of like, yeah, I don't think so. What's waiting for me over there? I'll take my chances and stay here. How was that? How did
It
you
was
get, how did you get used to
awesome.
that? Really? Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was so much fun. Well, it was scary the first few times. Well,
Yeah.
the first time it was awesome. I'm like, wow, I did it! Oh my god!
Right.
I floated out of. I've done the exercises.
Right.
There's literature on this, which is easy to find.
Right.
You can just do these meditations, these visualizations, these affirmations, and it works. And there is a very strong fear barrier for a lot of people.
Sure.
Because you pop out, and I remember that, like my third time I popped out, I'm like, oh, I died. I'm dead.
No.
Felt this cold dread. I'm like, what have I done? I
Oh,
dived
no.
back into my body. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm
What have I
fine. I'm
done? Yeah.
fine.
Oh no.
But this is a part of what they're trying to do. It's to say, listen, you can go out of your body. Listen,
Right.
you can see the future. Listen, you have the ability to do hands-on healing. You can do this. You can do channeling. You can do all kinds of, you can do levitation. It's funny. I was doing this article because I kept running to abductees, contactees
Yeah.
who've levitated. I'm like, Dolly, I don't suppose you've ever levitated.
Yes, she has. How old is she? Like 18
Yeah.
months? Like,
Yep.
yeah.
She's like, well, yeah, actually I did.
I know.
I really wanted to get to this shelf on the closet, and I just
It's like, what
concentrated
haven't you done?
and floated. I'm like, you're kidding. She's like, no, I did it again after that.
And Preston's thinking, how old am I? And this kid's doing it at this age in the crib.
Well, Stephen Greer talked about it.
Yeah. 10
Whitley
months old, she
Strieber.
says.
So a lot of people, this is a part of what we can do. And this is the ET message to you.
Right.
You are unlimited. You have all the power of the universe within you.
Mm-hmm.
You have the ability to levitate, to do telepathy. That is a huge thing. We need to start linking up with each other to the point where we have complete, total, open psychic empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we can do that, then we're done. We have solved our problems.
Right.
Because no one can lie, and
Right.
corruption and
Right.
greed will go away, because we will realize how truly one we are.
Right. A collective. Yeah, as Jolly says.
So this is the big message. Telepathy, telepathy, telepathy. Work on it. And this is why ETs communicate only with telepathy. It wakes that ability up.
Mm-hmm.
And Dolly, having dealt with this her whole life, comes back and has this ability. And this is not uncommon. There's a guy in Russia. He's like, I'm not going on. I can't do trains. I can't go out in crowds. I can't do it. Everyone is screaming at me.
Right.
And
that would be difficult.
Yeah. So
I would sympathize with that person. That would be hard to hear all those different thoughts, because people on an average, we all have baggage, and you always think about it. You're stressed out and things are always going.
Yeah, this would happen to me after OBEs. I'd come back and I'd hear people at work and they're saying one thing and thinking another. I'd be like, what did you just say? Because it would come out a little garbled. I'm like, I must be going crazy. I just thought you said something else.
Right. It's like, I know what you said for real. Right.
But yeah, this is a huge message.
Yeah.
That and treating our planet the correct way, treating each other, treating animals.
Yeah.
Because when you hurt someone else, you're hurting yourself.
See, people don't realize that when there's a war going on and doing all these atrocious things, there's a price for that. They're just notching and chipping away at the collective, which you are a part of.
Yeah. Read about near-death experiences, because there's a huge lesson there. When you have a near-death experiences, when you die, you are going to have a life review. And when you do, you are going to feel every emotion you've put upon other people.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to feel every good thing you did. When you helped someone, when you lent them money, when you fed them, when you helped them cross the street, you will get to experience that. But if you said bad words, if you hurt people, if you killed them, you're going to feel that. You're going to have to deal with every... There's one guy I talked to who had a near-death experience. He's also a contactee. And he says, I interviewed him. The only thing he would talk about was life review. He says, I was a bad person. You don't understand. For each person I hurt, I had not only feel that, but I had to feel the people they hurt, because there was a chain reaction.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's just why I backed up to Wayne's comment. He goes, not all of us have chosen this messed up way of life, but we don't seem to have like our free will, not so much free will, but free choice, because in a way I agree, because it is hindered by those who are actually in control of what's going on. Like Dolly's, I stand at my jaw on the ground. Yes.
Yeah. We must be strong. We must have fun.
That's it,
We really have to choose the kind of life we want.
So do we all have to sit there on mushrooms or something? Like just love and light, live the hippie lifestyle? Because like peace on earth, all of this stuff, because man, we just seem to be sinking. Like every life you live, you choose, she says. I believe that. And we all start off with these little tiny beings, so pure of heart and just so open psychically. What happens between this little bean and this big stalk over whatever the heck some people turn into?
Yeah, I have my theories. I think part of the problem is coming down into the third dimension. You run the danger of having profound amnesia and forgetting who you are.
Oh, heck yes.
So we end up going through this long karmic cycle where we have to sort of relearn and remember and go through all these lessons of what it's like to hurt people, what it's like to have loss, to experience pain. This is a school.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if ever we're going to completely have a third dimension that's really high energy, because it's just not that way.
So do you
We are,
believe that there's a race, like there's a bunch of us already living in fourth or fifth density, and that
of
there's just
course,
some of us that just don't get it?
yeah, absolutely.
Are those the
There,
people like living outside the matrix kind of thing? Like that theory that we're stuck in this and everybody else is looking at us, knocking and going,
yeah,
come on, what's wrong with you?
that's what life after death is.
Right.
It is a higher dimension where you vibrate at a much higher frequency. You're much more telepathic, where you are permeated with good energy.
Mm-hmm.
Love permeates the other side. You cannot
Right.
be in a bad mood, not in the higher realms. There are lower realms. There are earthbound ghosts. I've
Right.
experienced a lot of this. I know
You're
what it's
correct.
like.
Yeah.
Uh, but yes, we are all moving towards a higher dimension. So we don't. That's the first thing people need to do is leave fear behind and
Right.
recognize that we live in a safe universe.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, life is hard and we're dealing with a lot of pain and misery. But if we make the choice to do the right thing, every one of us, every
Mm-hmm.
soldier, every person, smile at the person. Take little steps. You don't
Yeah.
have to give all your money away and love the person who is beating you up. No,
Mm-hmm.
that's not what it's about. It's about taking a step in the right direction.
I like this comment. Sounds like there's less life before death than after. I think yeah, in some cases, very possibly, especially if we're not like learning the lesson. And on that, I have to do a station ID. So you are listening to the Outer Realm Radio here on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM from New Orleans. And we are here with Preston Dennett, dear friend, really, really awesome guest. And we're talking about Symmetry, a true ET adventure that Preston wrote for his dear friend, my dear friend, because I love her, Dolly Saffron. And we are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee, who is responsible for all this amazing content. Maybe a little bit for me trying to just trudge away at keeping it coming. And my little bubbly companion who's not here tonight because she's under the weather. So sending her love. But also big thank you to Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, aka Justin Snicker, our award-winning composer who has given us a sponsorship of a beautiful intro and outro, which is just phenomenal. So thank you for tuning in, and we are still going. And yeah, that's right. See, there we go. Dolly said, I drink Folgers. Perfect. That's what I want to hear. Tamara, yes, with the coffee cups. I love it.
Yes.
Hello, Dolly and Preston. Dolly is in chat and she is active. So there we go. If anyone has questions for Dolly, just so you know, pop it in there. I'll pop it on the screen. She'll answer and we'll do it that way. She is under the weather as well, so she's not on air tonight. There we go. Now we continue.
Yeah.
So
I'd like to talk just a little bit about what Dolly has experienced.
please.
Because people have all these experiences where they're laid out and physically examined, and
Yeah,
that's about as far as a lot of the stories I get go.
right.
And there's a smaller portion of people who say, well, yeah, they did show me, the moon. They
Yeah,
they gave me some messages.
right.
Well, Dolly's experiences started at age 14, and they said, what do you want to do with your life? Do you want to work with us? Do you really want to remember? She said, yes, I want to remember, and I want to fly.
Oh,
I want to learn how to fly the craft. And they said,
wow.
okay. And so
Wow.
from age 14 to age 19, they sat her down in the control room. This is
Right.
100 times a year. 2 hours every 3 or 4 days. She would do
Wow.
this. So we're talking, months upon months upon months of
Mhm.
real-time training.
Right.
And they would set her down and they're like, okay, watch while we do it. And off they would go to the moon. Off they would go
Right.
to Saturn. Off they would go to Venus.
Right.
And by age 19, she had a pretty good handle on it. And she sits down in the chair. And to fly the craft, you have to be really empathetic. You have to really know how to OBE, remote view, project your consciousness into the craft itself. Talata, who is himself an entity.
Mm-hmm.
These craft are alive.
Right.
And Talata is an higher dimensional entity. I think Dolly said he was from the 6th or the 8th dimension.
Wow.
So really high up there. And he embodies the craft. And he's worked with Dolly since she was just a tyke, a tiny little thing.
Wow.
And he's her teacher, her guide,
Right.
her compatriot. And they work together along with the little AI grays and the tall grays or the medium-sized grays. So she sits down in the seat, projects her consciousness into this device, which is this sort of roundish crystal ball type thing, which starts out small but expands as it turns on. She projects her consciousness into it, as does everyone who's working all the systems in the craft, which is phenomenally advanced to the point where I couldn't even begin to understand it.
Wow.
But she's able to open a dimensional doorway. And this is not really a wormhole. She says wormholes don't exist. You can't travel through black holes. What you're doing is opening a dimensional doorway, leaving this dimension and immediately exiting and entering back into the third plane, but picking a location, because when you're in those higher dimensions, there is no time and space.
Right.
So you are able to travel across the galaxy. And the first time they're like, okay, sit down. This is going to be your first time doing it yourself. And she was super excited. She reaches her hands and shocks herself on the ball. She's like, had to stop, take a breather. I was like, okay, just fine, you'll be fine. And she does it, and she pops through the dimensional doorway and out, and she's in front of this enormous purple planet, this huge gas giant, which is far, not in our solar system, obviously.
Yes, yeah.
And just imagine how thrilling. So this is how it started for her.
Right.
And she would do this regularly, popping across the universe, going to the Greys, the learning planet is what she calls it, or the tree planet, which is in the Orion system. And this is where she was going since she was a tiny little girl, age 6, 7, 8, 9, and still, actually, where they would take her to learn. This is another planet.
Yeah.
Can you imagine going to other planets?
Yes, actually. I want in. Absolutely.
She says trees there are huge. They're like skyscrapers.
Right.
And she says it's so rich with life that, the flowers are, reach human height. Giant flowers and giant plants with leaves as big as, how big would I describe? Did she describe them? Bigger than a human, huge.
Right. Right.
So she would spend weeks there and come back, and they'd plop her right back, a few minutes later.
Yeah.
So
that's phenomenal.
This was how it went on for years, just learning how to fly and darting around the universe. But she would also go onto these huge mother ships, which they don't call them that. They just call them craft. And they are vast. Some are planetoid size, what we would call a Dyson sphere.
Wow.
So they have basically artificial worlds, and a lot of them. And these huge craft where they scoop up animals and plants from Earth and from other planet systems that are going through troubles and transplant them to other planets. So this is where Dolly did a lot of her education. She would go up on these motherships and learn science and learn animal husbandry and learn agriculture and learn all this stuff that she could use in her own life. She grew up on a farm, so a lot of her education was tailored to what she was interested in and what she wanted to learn.
Yeah.
So this is an extraordinary life. She said when she started flying, first they took her singly, and they took her out with a few other pilots, and then they took a group of like 20 of them, and then they took out a group of hundreds of them, and they're all flying around, doing practice sessions on how to evacuate a planet. And at some point, Dolly became very involved with what we call abductions. She does
Right.
not call them that. The ETs do not call them that.
Yeah, experiencers, contactees.
They call it gathering the children.
All right then.
And this is, not necessarily children per se,
Right.
though our babies and their mamas or
Yeah.
kids, teenagers, and adults, and very old people. They work with all people all across the planet, regardless of race, or I'm not going to use that word, regardless of ancestry or ethnicity, because we are one race.
Right. That's interesting, because some people believe that they're broken down in blood types and that sort of thing.
No.
Lineages, because families are followed throughout like hundreds of years, thousands of years.
Yeah,
So
that does happen.
Yeah.
They do follow certain genetic lines,
Right.
and have been sort of guiding these genetic lines. And I ask people about their genetics, and Dolly's like, "Oh, well, I actually am related to a couple of presidents." I'm like, "Ooh, I've heard that before." She says,
I think Dolly and I are related.
I think a lot of us are, but
Yeah.
she has a very wide ancestry.
Yes.
She says, my genes go back to the original humans. It's exactly what another lady told me.
Yeah.
And it's always like, well, I've got, I've got Pacific Islander, I've got Asian, I've got African, I've got South American, I've got Caucasian. She is what she calls a Heinz 57 mix or something.
Yeah.
I think that's the word she used.
Yeah.
Which I hear. So yeah, they are following genetic lines, and yes, Rh negative is somewhat common, but no, they follow all people. They follow all genetic lines, and they are absolutely us, and we are them, and they are upgrading us. There was a guy in Florida who asked him flat out, "Why are you contacting me?" And they said, "We are interested in your genetic potential to live a long time." And this is something I hear from contactees. They enjoy really high, quick healing, really good health.
Right. Yeah. See, Dolly said we have the same family lines. I don't get sick often. So that's a little, if that's something. But yeah. So hold on. Okay, Mike, that's for you guys. Michael says, I really enjoy Dolly's and Preston's wisdom and insight. Absolutely. It's why they are here. And part of my own little circle. So
yeah, it's important that people move past the fear of their encounters. Because yes, it can be very scary for you. I get that. But what I will tell you, if you are having a hard time, is meditate. If you don't like what's happening to you, say, stop, go away. You're scaring me.
So it's
Stop
that easy.
Scaring me.
Yeah.
And reach a point where you're like, okay, now I'm ready. It's okay. Come tonight, but please don't scare me. And they will do their best. One lady I talked to, she's from, she lives now in Australia. She's like, okay, I think I'm ready. You can come tonight. And they came, and she heard him coming down the hallway, and she saw the hand reach around, and its little fingers went across the doorway, and she screamed out, "No, I'm not ready!
In my mind.
I'm in my mind, go away!" And they did.
Oh, wow.
But she eventually, got much better with it and had really positive encounters, was healed and learned how to heal.
Right.
So they will work with you, and to try to recognize that fear is not helpful. And that if you move past it, this is when you get to remember the good stuff. This is when you get the ride to Saturn. Wouldn't that be fun? This is when you get to go to another planet.
Yes.
This is when you get the healings. This is when you get all the information.
I think this is, maybe people have a hard time because they come at night when you're in your safe place, like your bed. You're supposed to feel safe in your bed. It's like having any intruder coming into your space. I know there's some nights I'm so bloody exhausted. I'm like, just wait till I fall asleep. Wake me up when we get there. I literally say things like, because I'm so freaking tired. But the whole house goes black. You can't even see your hand in front of your face. I'm going, oh, it's going to be one of those nights. Just wake me up when we get there.
I asked Dolly about that, actually. I'm like, why? Because people say, why don't you just knock at the front door at noon?
Yeah, it would
Honestly,
work
I'm
for
not.
me.
I'm not sure that that's going to be any less scary for people. But I did
Yeah,
ask Dolly, and she says, "Well, there are reasons they come at night.
right,
One is that they know you're going to be there.
right.
Another is that you are in a relaxed state.
Hmm.
You're not encumbered with jewelry and clothes and dirt and all this stuff.
Right.
Another major reason is because traveling during the day is difficult for them with the chaotic electromagnetic fields. Oh, there
Yeah.
she goes.
There she goes. Electromagnetic interference from the sun as well. Yeah.
So they can come at night because their ships can slide in easily,
Right.
are perhaps less exposed,
Hmm.
and are able to maneuver in ways that are much safer for them.
Right.
Because
Right.
UFO crashes do happen. They are
Mhm.
not perfect. They are people.
Right.
So these are the reasons, according to
Right.
Dolly, why they often will come at night.
Well, note to self then. Have a
But
nap
people
during the day.
people do have encounters at day. They absolutely do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
You read about them. They're there. I thought maybe it was a light thing at first. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe I just need to get on a big property so it's a little less, a little
One
less
guy,
obvious.
there's a case from Barbara Lamb, which I thought was interesting, where a guy was in his living room napping. This was early evening, but the ETs showed up and they started rifling through his bathroom and looking at all the medication. Like, what's this for? What's this for? And they came to help his knee because he had been having knee problems. But it just shows
Wow.
this human aspect to them.
Right.
People think of them as being so different from us. They're not that
Right.
different. They're really not.
Right.
They do express humor.
Right.
They do have a lot of the same emotions we do, perhaps not, the greed and the fear and the corruption and the jealousy and the despair.
Mm-hmm. Adrian asks Dolly, do they have rules of the road in space to prevent accidents? That's a good question. Dolly, that one is for you. Do they have rules of the road in space to prevent accidents?
I do know that she says learning to fly was quite a bit about that. Learning how electromagnetic fields work, learning how to maneuver with other pilots. And she says that when they were learning, each of the pilots was telepathically in rapport with each other.
Right.
So if one pilot learned one thing, everyone was learning it.
Right.
And
because they're all tuned into the same frequency, I suppose. With this.
Telepathy is a real thing. When Dolly's at home, she is talking to Talata like you and I are talking now.
Right.
And I don't know if you've ever experienced telepathy, but I have on a few occasions.
Yeah, once in a while.
With Dolly, I have. With my sister-in-law, Christine Kisara, the artist of the book.
Right.
With in OBEs, I certainly have.
Right.
Boy, once I had this awesome OBE, and I'm talking with these people, and I woke up in bed. I'm like, wow, that was the greatest OBE. And they started talking to me in my head. They're like, why did you contact us?
Right.
I'm like, oh my God, they're talking to me in my head. That was amazing. I'm like, well, I just wanted to learn. I was really hoping to learn.
It really makes you think twice about what you're thinking about, right? No naughty thoughts. It's like not what you need.
Yes, and you might not think you are telepathic, but you are. Because what we have done with our minds is we've compartmentalized them. You are conscious at night, whether you remember it or not. You are conscious in your subconscious, in your superconscious. So when someone is thinking, you hear them subconsciously. And this is the basis of language.
Yes.
Which is largely telepathic. Because really it's just kind of blah, 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 nonsense syllables that we have assigned meaning to.
Right. But they're fairly patient, I find. Like, I mean, in my case, I've got equipment, things they come through and speak, but I'll say something, they'll say, this, stop it, this. And I'll ask a question that I'm also like, I'll think about first. And you hear this, like, these little clicks going on and like communicating. I think, what's wrong with her? Why are we doing this to a box? Whatever it is. But they're very tolerant I find as well. Like they're tolerant teachers.
Yeah. Yep. I think I see that in a lot of cases. Yep. You know this. You've been here before.
Stop it.
Don't you
Stop it.
remember?
I know. I'm like, no. If I remembered, I wouldn't be asking. Quit scrubbing my brain. That's the problem. My memory's getting worse because of it.
That's why we need to, drink clean water, and
Yes.
and don't eat fatty, sugary, preservative-filled foods.
Yeah, that makes it really hard sometimes when you have life on the go. I agree with Michael on this when he says that they've replaced their toothpaste and mouthwash with non-fluoride because it does calcify the pineal gland. I use charcoal, charcoal toothpaste like forever because that is just one thing. You have to watch the food that you eat. The box. Yes, good analysis. There we go. See? They're very patient with me. That's all I'm going to say. So I agree with you. The refined foods, everything that probably put us in the state of almost like psychosis that we're all in now.
Yeah, more people are dying of overdoses from prescription drugs than illegal drugs.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
That is a problem. Yeah.
What is going on here? Why are they feeding us so many of these? God, I don't even want to get into those commercials. They're
yes, I know.
Plug. How many side effects can there be? Oh my God.
The side effects are worse than the issue you're trying to fix.
So yeah, we really need to move towards
healthy lifestyle.
Yeah. Thinking right. They're very Buddhist in their beliefs, the ETs. Very
okay. That's interesting.
Right thinking, right way, middle of the road, tolerance. Because people, it's one of the questions Dolly gets asked a lot when she's on board and people are taken on board. They're like, do you believe in God? She says that's one of the main questions that ETs are asked.
Right.
And they are very responsive to a person's belief system and will not, violate your belief system, but will work with you. But they don't believe in the Christian, man with a beard sitting on a throne, right, ordering people around type of thing.
It's a man-made thing, right?
As Dolly says, they believe in the all mind.
Right.
And then the universe itself has a level of consciousness to it.
Right.
And they are very nerdy people, she says. They're all about the pursuit of knowledge.
Right.
And sort of philosophy and science comes together for them, which is true with quantum physics, and I think mysticism. We see that coming together here on Earth in schools of thought. And I think that's how the ETs are. They're very moral, ethical, spiritual, mystical, scientific people.
Right. I like how you keep saying people, because I think that it's such a misconception when you hear, it, or like that, like they just don't, they're dehumanized. Yeah, creature. They're dehumanized.
Yeah, I remember when I'd interview Dolly, I'd sometimes get really confused. I'm like, you're going to have to use better pronouns. Are you talking about the ETs now? Or are you talking about the people? And I would have that with other contactees. I'm like, you keep saying the man, is the man the gray? She's like, well, yeah, I'm sorry. I don't look at them as grays. I look at them as people.
Right.
I'm like, okay, I get that now.
So it's reframing. You had to reframe even like your thought. Like I'm reframing it now, just trying to be like, no, you're right. You're right. They're humanoids. They're people. Him, her.
Yeah. One lady came into her house and there were the grays. And one of them was dressed up in a pinstripe suit.
That's so cool. I love it. So hip.
and I had to laugh because Whitley Strieber reported that. I know of other cases. And I'm like, why do you think they did that? She says, well, I'm pretty sure they did it to reduce the fear factor, to make me look at them as people, as sort of a sense of humor.
Right.
And she says it worked beautifully. She says she laughed out loud when she saw it. It freaked Whitley Strieber out when he first saw it. He's like, ah!
It's like, that you're natural.
He described that, but So
No,
yeah, it's all about just moving past the fear,
right.
and that's how we can begin to see them as who they really are.
Hmm. Hmm. So out of this experience, Dolly, where do you go from here with something like this? Like, where do you guys go? Is it going to be a part 2 to this book? Is there going to be, because the journey continues, you know?
Yes, yes, I would really like to write another book because every time I talk to Dolly, she tells me something new, and then I get
Right.
really angry. I'm like, why didn't you tell me that? I could have put that in the book. I remember one thing she recently told me. She's like, because we were talking about how they scoop up animals, and it's like, oh yeah, in the late 1970s, we were scooping up all kinds of species that were going extinct. I'm like, oh shoot, I don't know if we even really got too
Yeah.
deeply
So
into that.
is that why they're actually gone now? So, but yeah,
No, it's our own fault.
no,
We lose
I'm just saying, like,
species
take the
every day.
rest of
But
them. Yeah.
yeah, well, one lady from Australia contacted me, says, I saw them taking the koalas when there was that huge wildfire that swept through Australia
Wow.
and decimated the koala population. Well, not as badly as you might think, because they came down and scooped up those fuzzy little cute koala bears.
Right.
So they are doing that.
Right. Now, do you guys bring them back? Because you know how all of a sudden there's sightings of, let's say, oh, what is that? What is that? That even I'm trying to think, I'm tongue-tied. That animal that came back in Australia. What is it? The Tasmanian tiger, was it? Or
Oh, Tasmanian devil?
no, like there was one that was pretty much extinct, they thought here, and then all of a sudden they just started seeing him again. We're like, oh, so it was just hiding all this time.
Yeah,
It's a curiosity. It will not
exactly.
allow
And
extinction.
this is why people, that keeps happening. The coelacanth, they thought that was extinct.
Right.
And people, and I know this is just crazy, but people are actually reporting, gosh, I hate to say this because I don't even know what I think about it, but pterodactyls.
It's true. I've been reading the same thing.
I don't
It's a
know.
bird.
Oh my gosh. I remember
Yeah.
hearing about a case from California. I'm like, I don't know. No. And then I heard about a bunch of cases from
Yeah.
Arizona.
Yeah.
I'm like, huh. And then I found another one in New Mexico. I'm
So
like,
where are
well,
they coming
shoot.
from? Portals, or are they just being
UFOs?
dropped off again?
I don't know. Maybe they've always been here. I
Yeah.
tend to think that there's something to what you're saying, that they will, reintroduce species.
Yeah.
And like Dolly just mentioned a few lines ago, nothing is going to go extinct.
That's what she says. They will
Yeah.
not allow extinction. But
I
if you
remember,
see us abusing an animal, would you actually bring it back? Thinking, what, maybe we've evolved? We seem to be getting worse. you know?
I don't know. I think we're getting better because I think we've seen a lot of progress in human rights
Hmm.
with the way we're treating the environment. We are getting better.
Maybe in
The
some
whole,
ways, we still treat each other pretty crappy.
yeah, but look at how awful it was in the Middle Ages.
I'm just playing devil's advocate. Work with me. No, but I agree.
No, I'm telling you, if you fell overboard on a ship, they did not stop for you. They did not. We
All
will
right.
stop for you now.
Right. Throw my life preserver. Go for
You
it.
know how they treated sailors? The water you drank was the captain's bath water. They don't do that now.
Thank God.
You know,
Right.
people have
Right.
rights. We are actually learning,
Right.
and woman used to be property,
Mhm.
considered property.
Right.
That
But
it's not that way anymore.
do you think we have respect for um hold on here. Do you think we have respect for wildlife more now than we did before?
I think, yes,
Yeah.
I really think we do. Fortunately, it's a little bit too little, too late, because our planet is now in such dire straits.
Right.
And as Dolly says, we are in the time of gathering,
Yeah.
and
Shit will
they
hit
are,
the fan. Yep. They will be brought back later.
yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So this is what the ETs do. They're gardeners. They are collectors. They are guides. They watch over planets, and
Mhm.
each planet goes through a life cycle. This is a natural thing. This is
Mhm.
not, doom and gloom. This is good news for us. Yes, the shit's gonna hit the fan, but you know what? Now we won't have to deal with being enslaved, being corrupted, being poisoned,
Mhm.
being lied to. We can go to another planet and live the way we are supposed to live, in
Mhm.
love, in harmony.
Mhm.
And we don't have to live this way. This is great news for us.
Mhm.
And even if, there is a large loss of life, don't worry about it. You can come back in a new body.
Just somewhere else, because of the way
Yeah.
they're going, I don't think there's gonna be much left here. The way they're talking, you know. Dolly, what off-planet animal impressed you, and could you touch it?
I asked her quite a bit about this. She
And
she did see, she saw dinosaur-like animals. She saw bulls. We have bulls Gower bulls on our planet. She
right,
says they reach 4 times the size on other planets. They are dinosaur big.
jeepers.
Can you imagine?
That's what she says. I love egg layers and bulls. Yeah, that would be kind of cool, dinosaur-wise,
She
for
says the
sure.
birds on the tree planet are phantasmagorical.
Right.
Giant hummingbirds and birds with huge wingspans and chickens that are 3 feet tall and
Giraffe.
yes, giraffes, she says, does not evolve on this planet. And
Oh,
I found that really fascinating, because when I was in school, there was all kinds of arguments about how giraffes evolved. There's the Lamarckian theory that they stretch their necks.
right. Right. That's a
And of
Dr.
course,
Seuss thing. Right. Yeah.
and if I remember thinking about evolution when I was just a kid, thinking, okay, you're telling me in 60 million years we have everything from peacocks to elephants and giraffes, all from this little lemur? This
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no.
I actually
No,
charted it
no.
out. Okay, let's divide this up 1 million years. And
I know.
I'm like,
It's like,
So
yeah.
yeah, life did not evolve like people think it is. Evolution is obviously, there's truth to it. We see things evolve.
Hmm.
Things do evolve, but humans did not evolve on this planet like people think it did.
So we get dropped
Uh,
off, animals get dropped off, and some beings from here, animals from here end up on other planets. So we could technically end up someplace where we'll recognize maybe some of these animals or other people that we've had here.
100%. Yep.
Wow.
Dolly says that, yeah, there are pine trees on other planets. There
Yeah.
are ferns. There
Hmm.
are fish. She went to a water world. She says it was so cool because the oxygen there was amazing.
Hmm.
And she says they took her diving, gave her the equipment, her and a group of other children. And she says it was like being dropped into an aquarium that was thick with fish. You could not turn around and not see all these beautiful fish of all kinds. And they gave her a little bracelet to keep away the man-eaters.
Nice.
So she wouldn't get chomped up by some
So
shark
they
or
do
something.
have man-eaters on other planets. Okay.
Oh yeah. Dolly would go running off and they're like, stop, that flower is poisonous.
Wow.
You will kill yourself. You can't go running off willy-nilly. Stay with the group.
Even then,
Dolly, she
not
will go
listening.
running off.
Right.
She's an
Whether it's
adventurer.
this planet or another one, right? Yeah, she says, we learned to study nature. I love that. I do.
Yeah,
I love that a lot. So,
they are absolutely, I won't use the word worshipers, but hold nature sacred.
right,
And that's what they're all about. And that's what their huge mission is with us. They absolutely love and respect us and animals and nature. And this is
right.
why you see them picking leaves off of someone's split leaf philodendron. Got a
Right.
case of that. It was so funny. They just stripped the plant bare.
Yeah.
Uh,
All
and
right.
why they are taking soil samples and scooping fish from lakes.
I've
And
seen that, and I've heard stories of them taking water and fish and things like that. That's
yes,
very interesting.
one one lady wrote her book. It's called The Collectors, because
Right.
that's what they do.
Right.
So this is great news. We should be very happy that we have people watching over us. And this is the big secret behind the cover-up.
Right.
Because if people were to recognize that, well, they are people, they are like us, and we have neighbors and friends, the governments would lose control over enslaving the people. So yes, there is an alien threat. The alien threat is to the secret government's position of power. So they are absolutely not lying when they say there's an alien threat. It's to their jobs. It's to
Right.
their ability to control us.
To their ability to
It's
control
to
us.
them.
Right.
So, and I'll speak to them directly. Do the right thing. It's not too late.
Right.
You know, choose love. It's never too late.
So what happens to those who don't? You know, like if, you know, everything goes to hell in a handbag theory, and there are rescues that are going to come in and assist people theory, what happens to the naysayers? What happens to all these, I'm just going to call them these naughty people? What happens to them? Do they stay behind and everybody else goes? How does that work?
Well, according to Dahlia, everyone will be given a choice,
Right.
regardless.
Right.
Everyone will be given a choice to change. But they have already pretty much said, no, we're not changing.
Is there a point of no return?
Yeah,
So-
they will be allowed
Right.
to stay. If you don't want to go, you know, if you're too scared, if you're just not there, fine. You will be allowed to shed this body. There's no problem with that. They will respect your decision. And no, they're not going to take them because they have made that choice that they don't want to go. They want to, they know what they want to do, but I think they're wrong about it. I think they should stop trying to hurt people, stop trying to take people's money.
Right.
You know, stop trying to starve people. Stop trying to poison people. Do the right thing.
Yeah, people just, the more you have, the more you want. Michael says, my sleep journal shows I'm still working through my barriers, but my view of the future is not bleak, or a bleak view I once held. That's good.
I, for one, am so excited. I'm a huge fan of science fiction. You know,
right.
I was already kind of into aliens before well, not really, I didn't believe in them, but
right.
We are going to be living a science fiction future. It's awesome. Can you imagine what it's going to be like to be taken to another world?
Right.
To meet an advanced being who is absolutely eons ahead of us. To be openly psychic with everyone around you.
Right.
To not have to worry about lies. That's going to be so much fun.
Right.
Oh, I just can't wait. Our future is awesome. Yeah, we might have to leave this planet. We might have to deal with some real problems. But boy, it's going to be exciting. Boy,
I've heard people say that this is going to be the best time. You just look around you. I guess people probably, so there's going to be some people listening to this going, what, is this guy new? What's he talking about? There's a war going on over here. There's poverty. Government's going crazy. There's a pandemic.
There's always been a war.
Yeah.
There is. Look at the Spanish Inquisition.
Yes.
Life was easy then. Life is a lot easier now than it's ever been.
Right.
People have the ability to travel the globe. We have access to an enormous variety of foods.
Right.
We have access to an incredible amount of knowledge. We have access to incredible spiritual wisdom. It is far, far better than it's ever been.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
do. I agree. I think every generation has had a war. Every generation has had a pandemic. You know, it's a cycle that keeps going around, which means somehow we need to break some of these cycles. Some of these cycles we do have control over, and it is up to us to break them. You can't fix the ones that you don't have control over, but you certainly can fix the ones that you do have control over.
Yeah,
right?
Let's count our blessings. Yeah, life on Earth is hard. We all know it. That's obvious.
Dolly, Taylor taught me We should not use the stinking thinking. I definitely need to know what the hell that means. So, what is the stinking thinking, Dolly? Elaborate on that one before we close
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, she talks about that, which is basically being positive,
Right.
and facing truth.
Right.
Don't believe the lies.
Right.
Don't live in fear.
Right.
You
Always
are
say
here
yes.
to have fun. You are here to learn. You are here to live your life.
Right. So yeah, change the outcome one person at a time. So before we close off, this is a part where you promote yourself. This is the part where you want to get everybody over to this amazing book. I was one of the first to find it, just saying. I got this like day one. So here we go.
Yeah,
Here it is.
yeah.
Can you see
Thanks,
it?
Michelle. Yeah,
You're
it's doing
welcome.
really well, by the way. It's an Amazon bestseller. I'm super excited.
Congratulations. Look at this.
It's got an important message. I think it's probably got a more accurate view of the whole contact experience than a lot of books out there.
And for you picture
And,
people, there's pictures as well. So there's lots of pictures. There we go.
Yeah, Dolly drew pictures of the ETs, the little AI grays, the tall grays.
So
her main contact, Mama.
we know about Mama.
What the inside of the ship looks like. And yes, they agreed to give her photographs and moving films, by the way. She does have a YouTube channel. And you can see some of her moving films there. You need to send
me an invite to that, because I don't know if you're under some funky name or something, but I will definitely go and like it up. So basically the book, which is Symmetry-A True UFO Adventure, almost should have a little catchphrase in there saying, message of hope.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Dolly's into the book coming. Get at it.
I know.
Because for everything you're saying, this is just really is about messages of hope.
Yep, that's why she put out the book.
Mama loves Michelle. Thank you, Dolly. Michelle loves Mama right back. Yeah. So I think that's fantastic. So they can find the book on Amazon. Yep. Your website is posted. But why don't you just, for those who aren't seeing and are only listening, what's your website? How can they find you? What you got coming up?
Just punch in my name. It should take you there. It's PrestonDennett.weebly.com.
Right.
And yep, I'm on Twitter.
Right.
And occasionally on Instagram and Facebook, of course. And
yes,
I do have a YouTube channel where I'm putting out info.
Mm-hmm.
And love doing shows like yours, Michelle. It's one of my faves.
Yay! Because you're coming back. I'm glad you're actually having a good time.
Oh, always. Are you kidding?
Thank you. Thank you. You always have an open door policy. You know that, right?
Oh, shucks. Thank you.
No, you're very welcome.
I appreciate it.
You say, I need to be on the show. I've got something up. Okay. Or I just want to hang out. Okay. So we can do that. So this is awesome. I love it. And thank you so much always for joining us. Thanks to Dolly, who's been really hot and heavy in the chat room and right along in there, keeping everything up. And here's lastly, thank you, Dolly. Thank you, Preston. Kylie sends love.
Oh, thank you, Kylie. Thank you, Michael.
I know, that's awesome. And Dolly says, I love Preston, who is awesome. Who doesn't love Preston? That's all I'm going to say. So,
shucks. I love you too, Dolly.
Every time I hear it, I want to break out in song. I'm just saying. So thanks to everybody who's tuning in. And Preston, thank you so much. And I will be in touch with you. And we will definitely do this again soon, July, actually. For you people who are waiting to see when Preston's coming back, Preston is back on July the 6th.
Awesome.
All right. I love that. All right. All right, darling. So thank you very much, and we will be in touch soon.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye now. Well, here we go. That was a fantastic segment. So huge thank you to Preston. Thank you to Folgers Coffee. Thank you to Justin Snicker. Remember, stop by. Pretty much everything we're on, man. Subscribe to International Public Radio, UFO Paranormal Radio. Subscribe to UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials. Heck, go love us up on the Outer Realm Facebook. Don't forget about us. Where we keep that page really good. Amelia's like right on that. If you need to contact us, please do so at the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. The Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. Next week brings 2 more amazing guests. Never been on the show before. We've got Lindsay, I hope I'm going to say this right, Lindsay Sherman, and she's going to be talking about dream walking, shamanic experiences, and attachments next Wednesday. Thursday evening, we will welcome, obviously for the first time, Kevin Randall to the show. He's a retired lieutenant colonel who's in the U.S. Air Force, and he's going to be discussing UFOs in Texas. Well documented. This guy is just like amazing. And you're welcome, Dolly. I love you too. Bye, Jeannie. Bye, Justin, Adrian, everybody, Tamara. Bye, Wayne, Michael. But anyway, until then, Amelia and I do thank you guys. On behalf of both of us for tuning into the show, everyone in chat, please have a wonderful and safe Easter weekend, and we will see you all next week. Good night.